All right. Thanks so much, John, for joining the call today. I'd really like to thank you for using our platform to reach your succession goals. I'm so glad that you had success with us. It's been a pleasure working with you. And of course, we value your membership. So can you tell me then, John, how did you hear about the Succession Link community?
I became aware of it through an email that I received from Succession Link, and that's how I learned about it. I kind of looked into it a little bit. That was probably 2 to 3 years ago, I guess, when I first became aware of it.
Yeah, I think, were you really active at that point, or were you just kind of exploring our website?
Yeah, I was really just exploring. At the time when I received it, I did not have retirement on the horizon. I knew it was coming sometime, but it wasn't something that was immediate. But I did take some time and look at it because I looked at the platform and kind of ran through the numbers and everything and input some information about my business. I guess I was surprised when they came back with an estimated valuation. So that's what kept my interest in it. When retirement became a necessity, that's when I really started exploring it with much deeper interest.
Excellent. Yeah, that's what I've heard from a lot of different, sellers way in advance, maybe 2 to 3 years. They'll sign up with us, take a look at the platform, get a good idea of the valuation of their practice. And almost in a way, it's kind of putting yourself on the buyer's radar. So it seemed like that worked out pretty well for you. And I'm glad that you were able to utilize our deal terms calculator. It's a very helpful tool. So great. Could you just kind of tell us a little bit about your experience on the platform once you were more active on there? I know for the first couple years or year and a half, there wasn't a whole lot of activity, but once you were really active and started engaging with other members, how was that process for you?
Well, I finally put the information out there that, yes, I was looking for a successor to acquire my book of business. I started receiving almost immediately inquiries from a number of different advisors or advisor organizations. It was all through the email, basically, and it was kind of nice because, you could kind of look at their location and where they were at, and some of them even provided a little bit of information about their own practice and things like that. So it was kind of helpful, in that regard. I mean, it was very helpful in that regard. I had put together, when I finally formally put my information out there, I had what I guess you would call a wish list. I live in a small rural community in western Iowa, and I've been in doing my practice for over 35 years, and most of my customers are within a 10 or 15 mile, 20 mile radius of my office. And almost all of them have been calling the same phone number or coming into my office at the same location for that entire period of time.
Wow.
And I did not want a successor advisor. I did not want a situation where they were going to have to climb in a car and drive to, Sioux City or Omaha or Lincoln or Des Moines. I wanted them to have the same convenience that they've always had. So that was one of the requirements, that the successor keep my location to the greatest extent possible. I had some other things on the radar too. I was behind the curve on the technology side of the investment business, and I knew that. And so I wanted the successor advisors to be really up to speed and be able to use technology with my investment clients.
Absolutely.
The third thing I wanted on the radar is I wanted them to be full-service financial brokers. I only had a Series 63 license, so I wasn't licensed to do individual securities or anything like that, even though I had been asked about that many times during my career. And unfortunately, I always had to send those people who wanted to do individual securities down the road to, a full-service broker. So that was on the radar too, and those are just 3 examples that were on the wish list. I wanted the advisors to be substantially younger than me,
Right.
because I didn't want my customers to have to go through this again in another 5 or 10 years. So that was very important to me. And kind of the last thing that was on the list, and I didn't know if it was going to work out or not, but because I live in a small community, people in small communities, I guess, have a closeness or a way of thinking that is perhaps different than it is in large municipalities. So I
Yeah,
wanted,
right.
kind of on the last thing on my wish list was to have an advisor or advisors that understood small communities, that could relate to rural people and people that live in small towns. So,
Hmm.
and I'm happy to report that the advisors that acquired my business fulfilled every single one of those requirements for me.
Wow, that's excellent. Yeah, that's amazing that you were able to share on your listing, the different criteria you were looking for. Sounds like you really wanted somebody very client centric to be able to service your clients and be there for them and not have them change, their relationship with their financial advisor. And how exciting that you were able to find somebody on our platform that literally fit the description to a T. Very exciting. Now, when did you first engage with the buyers? I remember I had called you and we spoke briefly, and you were kind of in the initial introductory stage with them. I think you guys had some calls and face-to-face meetings. Around when did that take place, John?
The advisors that I selected to market my practice to actually contacted me by telephone in August of 2017. I got some other calls too,
Mm-hmm.
probably three other calls from advisors that wanted to talk to me. The gentlemen that I sold my business to were the very first ones. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other three, I did talk to the other three. I actually sat down at the table with them and talked to them about, again, those requirements that I had. And, they had a lot of questions about my business. And it was, I guess I would have to say that the advisors that I chose made me the most comfortable, and I believed were sincere about satisfying all of the requirements that I wanted the successors to have. And so that's the reason I chose them. And I had literally dozens of, email inquiries and everything,
Right.
but I could eliminate most of them because they were at just a too far distance away from my customers. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from 150 to 60, 70, 80 miles away. And that is not what I was looking for. And
Right.
so it was actually August of 2017 that I started talking with these two gentlemen.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, sometimes too, it's those first beginning phone calls or meetings. It's not necessarily about, numbers or having to fit your criteria 100%, but you're also just kind of feeling out for a synergy. It's sort of, you know, do I get along with these people? Do I think get along with my clients? So I'm glad that you're able to find that in them. And, how many meetings did you guys have until you ended up maybe putting some paperwork into play?
Well, I would say we probably had at least 5 meetings before they put an offer on the table. The first meeting I had with them was in there. They have another office in Omaha, Nebraska, and I went down and met with them there for about 2 hours, and it was just kind of a get to know each other type thing. And then they did show me a little bit about the technology that they use and things like that. But we probably sat there for 2 hours and just, talked about, the business, about their families, about where they grew up, where they came from, that type of thing. And then I would say after that initial meeting, we met at least 4 more times. They started having more specific questions about my business, how
Mm-hmm.
much book I had in force, if it was entirely commission-based or was it fee-based. I entered the business through the life insurance arena, so they wanted to know a lot about my life insurance business. I did a lot of other things too. I mean, I also had Medicare supplement plans and health insurance and some group health.
Mm-hmm.
And, still was active in the life insurance arena. And, in a small community, you kind of have to be the jack of all trades, which I was. So they had a lot of inquiries about that. At about the third meeting, I guess, they gave me a fairly lengthy group of forms to fill out, so because they wanted to know about my business and everything. And basically, they submitted it to a company that could come up with a valuation for my practice. My business was entirely commission-based. It was not fee-based at all.
Right.
And that was important to establish, a fair valuation. I would say it was probably the 5th meeting is when they finally tendered an offer to me. and I had an idea of about where it would be. But I guess you could say that I was pleasantly surprised. It was a little bit higher than what I had hoped for. And so when they placed that in front of me and everything, it was right before Thanksgiving in 2017, and we basically shook hands and said, we've got a deal. I signed the papers, they signed the papers, and we agreed to start on January the 2nd of 2018 in transitioning my customer base to them.
Great. So, yeah, getting into the terms of the deal, because I know that people are eager to hear about these things. Could you share, well, for example, I know you said you had received an offer that was a little bit higher than you had anticipated, which is awesome. Was there a specific multiplier you could share with our community as far as how much they ended up being offered?
Well, it was probably about 10% more than what I was hoping to get. I think the reason that they offered what they did is they could see the potential that was there. My practice was fairly modest, I guess, by a lot of people's standards. I'm proud of what I did over 35 years and what I created basically from zero. But I think they saw that there was more potential there. And I agreed with that. I think there was more potential. But I was a single person office. I had no secretary. I did it all on my own. They saw that with the additional services that they could offer, with two of them being on board and with, some back office support and things like that, I think they felt like they could grow the business beyond what I had already accumulated. So they gave me a down payment of about 15% in January. It was about 15% of the purchase price.
Okay.
And then paid me a little bit, a quarterly payment for the balance of 2018. And then the contract called for them to basically pay out the balance of the purchase price quarterly basis over the next 6 years. So I'll be getting checks, March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, and December 31st every quarter now for the next 6 years.
All right. So there was about a 15% down payment then and a 6-year earnout. And I know at the time you were managing roughly $30 million in assets under management, correct?
Yeah, it was actually when we closed the deal, it was about $32 million. That included all the mutual funds and, some variable annuity, not a lot, but it was basically, I'm going to say probably 31 million of that 32 million was entirely A-share mutual funds.
Okay. John, would you feel comfortable sharing the purchase price with us?
They paid me $220,000 for my business.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks so much for providing some insight there. And, what does life look like for you now that you've sold the business and you're receiving your earnouts over the next 6 years? What's going on your end? Do you have any other business ventures, or are you just relaxing now into retirement?
I hope to never relax. I think if you quit and sit in a rocking chair, you're going to die. So my intent is to be as busy or busier in retirement than I was when I was working, but I'll just be doing more of the things that I want to do, I guess. My wife and I have a cabin on a lake up in northern Minnesota.
Beautiful.
And we've had it since 1982. We started building it from scratch, and it's our little patch of heaven, I guess. And, when I was in business, I could only be up there for a couple of weeks at a time at the most. Then I'd have to come back home and take care of all the various tasks that are involved, for a week or 10 days. And of course, having a cell phone and a laptop computer, worked out pretty nice, and that made it somewhat more flexible. But you still have to be
absolutely.
Here. You still have to be here, So yeah, just having more flexibility. We have 4 children and 15 grandchildren,
wow.
The grandchildren, the oldest one's a freshman in college, and the next one is going to be going to the same college this coming year. She actually has a full ride basketball scholarship to play at Ohio State University, and so we're going to be going to every one of her games, and
sure,
doing some road trips too. So
that's wonderful. Sounds like you've got a lot going on, and I agree. I think keeping the brain, exercise and constantly learning new things and skills is it's the key to longevity. So I'm right there with you on that thought. And yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Other than anything else you've already shared with us, which has been really invaluable information for us, are there any other tips that you could give to sellers?
Well, I think they should stay engaged with Succession Link. I really didn't know what my business was worth. I had no idea that I could, receive the price that I did receive for it. And I have to say that I was completely satisfied and even surprised at the level of service that I received, with the amount of interest that I received from prospective investment advisors out there who are looking to acquire practices of people that are leaving the business, for whatever reason, whether it's retirement or death or whatever. I think it's an excellent platform. I have nothing but good things to say about it, and I would simply encourage any advisor that is thinking about retiring sometime in the future to stay engaged with Succession Link and utilize their services. I think they'll be well pleased and surprised at the valuation that they can receive for their business.
That's wonderful. We really appreciate that, and we're so happy that you were sharing that with us. And I know other people will be very excited to listen. Just wrapping everything up, I really want to say again, thank you so much, John. We've enjoyed having you with us. We're here in the future if you ever need anything more from us. And again, thanks for being such a valued member of the Succession Link community. It was a pleasure working with you.
Well, you're very welcome, and thank you to Succession Link and the whole organization. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care.